So the question is, how often or how many times do we meet before the wedding? And the reality is this is different for each couple. Typically, there's one main meeting, usually at the beginning of the process, and then at least 2 more kind of check-ins leading up to the day. And so when it comes to maybe a week to 2 weeks before the wedding, that's really the big one for me, where I'm making the assumption that you know how many guests that you have and kind of the main details of who's doing the prayer and how we're gonna handle the grand entrance. And that usually happens a week to 2 weeks before the wedding. A lot of couples, usually 2 or 3 months, like to at least call me before the wedding and just make sure that I'm still living and that life is still going on. And in a sense, kind of, hey, just calling to check in and find out if you needed anything more from us. Oftentimes that one, then I'll just remind them, hey, anytime between 2 weeks to a week before the wedding, we will call and do one final big check-in. I love it when people make their way actually over to Mankato and meet with me a week to 2 weeks before the wedding, because it solidifies all the details of mainly who are you guys and what's really important to you, because a lot of times it's been a year since I've met you. So first meeting, we kind of get things dialed in, decide on which services that we're gonna do for you, whether or not you need an on-site wedding videographer, if you need me to do the sound for your wedding, how many people are ballpark, where the reception's going to be at, or at least which town, and get kind of those things dialed in during the first meeting. The second meeting tends to be, are you still living? How are you doing? Let's just check in. Let's go through all of these things of here, we switched the location or we switched where the wedding was going to be at. And then on a week to 2 weeks before the wedding, that's when you really get nitty gritty, and I'll print out the contract and I'll go literally line by line. I think there's 270 things that I like to ask that happens a week to 2 weeks before the wedding. So that's kind of how it usually goes. I have a lot of couples that do much more than that, and I have some couples that do even less, but that's the typical pattern for how this works.